Hello, you're listening to the Robot Wars History podcast, the podcast where we chat the development of the show and the British robot combat scene in general by looking at key teams and bots. I'm your host Luke, and with me today is Nick.
Yep, hello everybody.
And nobody else. This is a two-man show. And today we are looking at, finally, the bot everyone has been waiting for, Onslaught.
Yes, we are. I mean, exactly why this is a two-man episode. Only two people are powerful enough to cover this machine.
Exactly. Onslaught pretty much kept the same design throughout. It was a big old scoop on wheels that could eventually lift, and was powered by a motor which we learned in Series 4 was from 1967. So if Onslaught was to make a return to combat today, it would literally be carrying like 50-year-old parts.
Wow.
Competition for Peter Gibson right there.
Oh, yeah. There'd be some kind of like Robot Wars grudge match special battle for that. The Inferno Old Men Insurrection or something. God knows.
90-year-old Ken Rose under sticks.
Oh Christ! Yeah, the ancient annihilator. There we go. You have to have parts or a team member that are at least 80 years old to feature.
Well, Nick, do you want to start our wonderful journey through the tale of Onslaught with Series 2?
Yeah, well, Onslaught came into Series 2 looking a little bit more basic than we're used to. You know, no skull and crossbones on its scoop, which is unfortunate from a visual standpoint. But it successfully got a distance in the gauntlet in its debut. Though, notably, Onslaught here, as it goes down its right-hand side, I guess you could say, it runs into the Sentinel. Now, most machines, you know, depending on their size and their speed, some machines can get pinned by the Sentinel a bit, or, you know, it could just be a little bit awkward to manoeuvre past. But Onslaught has a full-out 3-minute battle with the Sentinel here. It first engages it on the front side, you know, and they have a little bit of a scuffle, but Onslaught manages to get its way through. But on the reverse swing, Onslaught runs into dead metal, and then the Sentinel comes back around, and in a rather interesting moment, the Sentinel completely sweeps Onslaught into the pit from about 5 feet away. It's a ridiculously long pitting, and the Sentinel, you know, I've got to give it credit. It's a really clean pitting, and the guy who controls the Sentinel from inside, he must have been ecstatic after it happened. But not exactly impressive from Onslaught to be pitted by the Sentinel, to say the least.
The sheer size disparity between the Sentinel and Onslaught, like the thing at the end of the Sentinel's arm is literally like the same size,
like the
as
the barrel rhino horn thing, whatever it actually is called at the end of the Sentinel's arm. They are about the same size as Onslaught.
Yeah,
it's ridiculous.
Nevertheless, Onslaught is able to progress into a completely forgettable skills, is it? Barrels?
Yeah.
Something like that.
I mean...
It's totally forgettable. They drive in, they bump around a bit and knock enough barrels through to get through.
Yeah.
It's a standard run.
Using their massive turning circle to great effect for once. To be fair, I don't think that ever has been a memorable Skittles run, let's be honest.
Piece of resistance, maybe.
Well, yeah, of course, but a memorable one where a team scores points.
Yeah, that takes him through to the start of one of Robot Wars' great rivalries against Roadblock.
Well, you know, they have to navigate the first arena semi-final battle first against Nemesis.
Ah, yeah, true. Sorry, I forgot.
You,
This incredibly memorable fight against Nemesis.
yeah, I mean,
Where at this point Nemesis has about 80 things sticking out.
yeah, I mean, it's got like 20 spikes. It's got a skewer on the back. It's got its spike at the front, the pneumatic spike. It's got the kebab on top for this fight, and you know, on paper, you know, Nemesis coming in from a decent first wars, it made the arena stage, and it's made its way back to the arena here. You'd have to say it's the favourite, but in a fight which many a fan of the show would describe as a classic, Nemesis gets bodied by Onslaught, gets dominated, dies, while Onslaught pisses about in the CPZ. And then Onslaught, learning from the way that the Sentinel swept into the pit, manages to come in with a beautiful long drive on Nemesis, completely catches it out and dumps it down the pit. Brilliant pitting.
Is this the only time Team Nemesis like died without being flipped?
You might be right there. I don't think
Yeah.
Dietor or Nemesis ever really broke down.
Yeah, so props to Onslaught, I guess.
Yep. That big old experienced motor helping grind Nemesis down.
Yeah. Yeah, it's after this that they face Roadblock, and sadly they can't pull off quite the same feat here.
Well, yeah, I mean, the big old experienced motor ends up showing its age here, I'm afraid.
Yeah, this fight's interesting because at one point during this fight, Roadblock turns into a lifter when it's underneath Onslaught, and the spikes are just shooting it up like as they do in Series 2 and 3. The spikes will just keep firing for about 2 minutes.
Yeah.
When you're on top of them, you can't get off them.
You know, Roadblock manages to very nearly get Onslaught up and out of the arena, but Onslaught, you know, with its pluckiness and its big experience motor, manages to stay in the arena here, though it can't avoid defeat, I'm afraid.
Yeah, very unfortunate. Thankfully though, for Onslaught, this would not be the end of its tale, of its time in Robot Wars.
Just the start. Just the start.
It would return in Series 3. Its motor, a year older.
A year more experienced.
And so it was that Onslaught would enter Series 3 and fight Armageddon.
I mean, you know, after such a disappointing end to Series 2, I mean, you know, despite it staying in the arena, it still did lose. And then, to come into Series 3 against Armageddon, you know, this Onslaught hasn't had an easy fight in the arena yet. It faces an experienced machine from Series 1, which made the arena. It faces the champion. And now, it faces the machine which inspired the likes of Stinger and Gabriel, so it's just harsh. But as we know by now, Onslaught's big experienced motor does have an extra year of experience. And it proves telling here as it absolutely rams Armageddon around the arena, mostly missing it. Its scoop actually being pretty ineffective, so it used the rear spikes to reverse into Armageddon. But you can take nothing away from how Onslaught even failed to pit Armageddon when it was completely impaled next to the pit. But it was just charging up, waiting its moment for when Armageddon freed itself, so Onslaught could then just bowl it back across the arena floor and into the pit in another battle, another moment where Onslaught is involved in a pitting moment, which is an incredibly long pitting. You have the Sentinel sweeping it in from about 30 yards away. You have Onslaught charging Nemesis down over about 5 seconds. And you have it bowling Armageddon in the pit from halfway across the arena here. Like, Axel Wheelie Big Cheese, there's nothing on the distance here, I have to say.
As this is my last chance to ever discuss Armageddon, I do want to say that at the end of this nominal thwack bot, any possible effect its thwack could have is completely nullified by the fact there's a big bloody caster wheel at the end. So it's just hitting opponents with a big wheel.
I mean, to be fair, judging by the budget of most of the early series machines, you could argue caster wheels were some machines' weapons. So I wouldn't criticise Armageddon too much. You know, it's got a couple of spikes on that swinging arm as well, or as JP would like to call it, a mace.
Speaking of mace, move over Chaos 2 versus Mace 2. We have a real refight of Series 3 here. Onslaught versus Beast of Bodmin. Beast of Bodmin, arguably a downgrade from Roadblock. Onslaught, we've mentioned, it's got that extra year of experience. Could this be their chance? No.
Yeah, it could have been if they could actually lift any bloody machine higher than a couple of centimetres, but no, most of this fight is Onslaught lifting Beast of Bodmin by the painted and prickly spikes on the side, and then Beast of Bodmin falling back on the arena floor, and that happens about 5 times, and then Onslaught kind of panics, charges up Beast of Bodmin and falls over.
And so we get that classic wink.
Oh yes, we get the classic wink, but we also, in this battle, have birth to an opening titles attack, where Dead Metal, after Onslaught is immobilised, charges in on the beaten machine and soars into it in a lovely zoomed-in camera shot. You can absolutely understand why they'd want Onslaught to be part of the opening titles, can't you?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
And so that is the end of Onslaught Time Series 3. A memorable time.
Oh yes, a very memorable one. With such classic victories such as Onslaught versus Armageddon.
And sadly, however, come Series 4, Onslaught has to drop out. Although probably not that sad, because it would have had to fight Hypnodisc, which I don't think that scoop's quite a spinner killer kind of scoop.
Yeah, but they have an extra year of experience than Hypnodisc.
They've got an extra 50.
Yeah, 52 years to 1.
However, that Onslaught does feature in Southern Annihilator, where, just like the Northern Annihilator, you have about 50 different grand finalists and semi-finalists in one fight.
Yeah, and then a couple of also-rans.
And it's the also-ran who happens to make the final.
But Attila the Drum didn't make the final.
Yes, Onslaught is in the Southern Annihilator, and it does get to the final, and it doesn't do that much to get there.
Oh no, you gotta give plucky little Onslaught some credit, as JP called it about 50 times in the fights. In round 2, it lifts Razor up a few times, it lifts Behemoth up a few times and drops it back on the arena floor. But you are discrediting plucky little Onslaught. I'm not having it.
I will admit it does do more than Spawn of Scudder, which given it to Scutterbots.
Yeah, expecting a Scutterbot to last for durability in an Annihilator wasn't exactly promising, was it?
I think it might do more than Behemoth, come to think of it.
Yeah, I think I'd agree with that, to be fair.
Yeah, I mean, Onslaught, I think Onslaught mostly survives by the fact that it's... I mean, anything in this round, anything in this Annihilator that isn't Attila the Drum exists because Razor allows it to. It competes because Razor allows it to.
Yeah.
And Onslaught happens to be, apart from Attila, the least easy one for Razor to go after.
Yeah, I mean,
Behemoth.
Obviously Razor had to target Vercingetorix in the first round, you know, kill off the strongest first.
That's exactly.
So, yeah, you can understand Razor's philosophy there, and as you say, it keeps going. And
Yeah, worked its way through night boxy spawn of Scudder and Behemoth. And then Matilda joins there, and that kind of throws a wrench in things, but thankfully the house robots are there to bring sense to things. Make things make sense again.
yeah, shout out to Attila the Drum for dying because the kill lot picked it up and put it back down. That's pretty special to achieve.
Yeah, and ultimately, Matilda just blatantly kills Onslaught because it's like, okay, we need to have Razor kill Matilda at 1 minute 30. It's 1 minute 20. Onslaught's still running around. We can't be having this.
Now, here's a bit of a hot take. So, just before Onslaught got flipped by Matilda, it also completely charged away and darted over the flame jet. I have a sneaky suspicion that Onslaught was in on this as well, and it deliberately threw the fight because it knew it was going to win. And if it did win, Razor would have never had the chance to have attacked Matilda. So, I think Onslaught threw the fight. They were bribed.
It's possible.
I think it is.
I think we need to look at financial statements for Menton.
Just get Toast private messaging the Onslaught team one by one. Hello. Did you throw the Series 4 Southern Annihilator title fight?
I think you're right. I think money has changed hands. Briefcases have been exchanged.
Yeah, I agree. And, they would have used that money to build an extra chunky motor for Series 5. That's where the weight increase went.
They would have used that money to buy an even older motor.
Oh, good! This one's from 1957.
And Onslaught with their steam-powered motor.
Could be flammable.
But yes, Onslaught did compete after the weight increase, but only once.
Oh, but you are forgetting also its other appearance in Series 4 in the Sumo Basho. Absolutely fantastic display here as Onslaught runs around a bit, runs up Shunt Scoop, and then runs off the edge.
Beautiful.
Yeah, and to be fair, Onslaught lasted long enough to finish 4th, nearly 18 seconds, so, good durability, good experience shown to stay in there. And setting it up really nicely, those two performances in Series 4 as a collective. 4, as Luke said, its final bow in Series 5, and what a journey this one was.
Yes, by now Onslaught, putting the weight increase to good use, has the Shreemech, the self-rating mechanism, very akin to what Storm 2 is sporting in Series 8.
Yes. Yeah, we'll go with that.
And in this rather stacked heat, we have two semi-finalists. We have the bot that will go to the grand finals. Then we have Onslaught. Unfortunately, they find themselves against Tetanus, who exhibits an exploitation of the pin rules that reminds me more than anything of Voltronic versus Biohazard. It's frankly rather vile.
It is. But I guess in this case, it was more of a case of the producers and probably even the team not knowing what they were really doing. I don't think they knew if they had Onslaught in their control or not, so they just kept driving forward.
Yeah, unfortunately, Onslaught, it falls at the hands of a rather scummy Tetanus.
Yeah. I mean, there's only one way to get through a 1957 motor, isn't there? And that is to cheat.
Exactly. That's what I'm thinking.
Onslaught started well. It lifted Tetanus up. It was in control. But then, Tetanus comes in and does the dirty job. And Onslaught still tries to fight back, to be fair to it. It uses the steam-powered motor to vent steam through the arena floor to KO Tetanus. So, I mean, to be fair, I would count that as the legit KO. Onslaught's steam-powered motor over Tetanus's cheating, but for whatever reason, the judges weren't having it. I don't know why. Again, maybe a bribe. But
see, I'm thinking we know who was supposed to win this heat. It was Bigger Brother with the nicest kids. So someone had to get rid of the Onslaught threat.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I guess so. The producers already knew how much of a threat Onslaught was to their plans in the Annihilator, so they had to get rid of him even earlier here, just to be sure.
I mean, Splinter, you can't really trust. 3 Stegs, maybe if it was a bit more like Steg 2, but Extreme had shown us 3 Stegs wasn't the bot its predecessors was.
And Splinter technically got KO'd by Agrobot and died before Killatron before it got self-righted, so...
Yeah, you can't trust on them. So someone had to take out Onslaught, and they got Tetanus to do their dirty work.
It's a shame that a legend of the sport had to come down in such a brutal way, such dirty tactics, such disgraceful, dishonest conduct. Like, we love the classic series of the show. It gives us such great memories, such brilliant nostalgia, but it's moments like this that just taint the show. It's a shame. It really is.
Yeah, I mean... Yeah, exactly. I mean, Series 5, it has moments like Hypnodisc versus Bigger Brother, and it has Chaos 2 versus Wild Thing.
Yeah, but
it's when you remember that...
When you're watching those fights, you just think to yourself, what if this...
Imagine what...
what if this was Hypnodisc versus Onslaught? We were robbed of that fight again. What about if it was Onslaught versus Chaos 2? What about if it was Onslaught versus the Tartan Terror? All these questions that were never answered just because Onslaught got paired against Tetanus.
Absolutely.
Disgusting behaviour.
The Onslaught team, they did try to enter Series 6 with a Savage Toaster.
Oh my god, I forgot about that!
I believe at this point the motors they were using were actually... it was very innovative, actually. Somehow Onslaught managed to perfect a device much like that shown in the movie Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, allowing the motor to be powered by miniature slave labour.
Oh, that's one of my favourite methods of locomotion.
Sadly, it didn't succeed. And in Series 8, they entered the pilot with Kapow. Lost. And I think Onslaught still exists.
Oh mate, I have just made a discovery on the Onslaught wiki page. You know, I said, what about if we had Onslaught v Chaos 2? Well, in the Onslaught gallery near the bottom of the page, there is indeed a picture of Chaos 2 versus Onslaught at a live event. Damn. I would pay good money to see the footage of that.
I would pay good money to see Chaos 2 flip Onslaught and then Onslaught fails to self-right.
That would be utterly fantastic. Onslaught, the inventor of the front hinge Shremek.
Okay, there you go. There you go, you disgusting pigs. There's your Onslaught episode. This is over. Bye.